Ladies and gentlemen, from the depths of flyover country in the heartland of America, the Kansas City on the other side of the mighty Mo, welcome to Hittin the Bricks with Kathleen, the genealogy show that features your questions and her answers. I am John, your humble hubby host, and on this episode, we'll be talking to Bruce Gebbeken from the Show Me State, and for us, home sweet home, the great state of Missouri. And welcome to new listeners from California to New York and the UK, Germany, and Oceania. Now, let's start Hittin the Bricks. So we're here with Bruce Gebbeken and, of course, the brick hitter, Kathleen.
Welcome, Bruce.
Well, thank you.
Bruce, what state are you in?
I'm in Missouri.
So you're enjoying this lovely weather we're having this week as well.
I am really enjoying it.
I'm just assuming, are you retired?
Yes. 22 years in the military.
Okay. How long?
22.
22. Well, thank you for your service.
I was a DUM, Director of Information Management. I'm a retired GS-13 IT professional.
So we know who to call when we have trouble.
Exactly.
Kathleen, do you want to tell us how this happened? How did you guys hook up?
I am not sure. Bruce said that he...
Maybe I'm asking the wrong person. Bruce, would you like to tell us how?
Yes, John, I can tell you. My daughter just happened to go to a library in Independence. She heard about Kathleen and said, "Dad, you need to see this thing called Hittin the Bricks." So I got on the link and Kathleen said, "We'll get together."
And so we're happy to have Bruce. I'm going to let Bruce tell us why he called.
It's fine with me. Go for it, Bruce.
Okay, I shall. My specific question is we've been researching for a long time, and relatives have been saying this and saying that. And the way I do genealogy for myself, if it can't be proven, I'll delete it or I'll put a side note, but I will not put it on my page unless it's accurate.
Well, you have to stop for a small standing ovation from the other genealogists right now. If you're listening during drive time, don't stand up. But there are a lot of people. There are a lot of people, I'm sure, who are applauding that.
And my specific question was one relative, which is my great-grandfather, was James Jordan. That side of the family, they're very quiet about everything. Everything meaning they don't share things very much.
And so, John, the Jordans are located in the Indian Territory, mostly around Pittsburgh County, Oklahoma.
This is Cherokee Nations, I think?
This would be Choctaw Nation.
Choctaw?
In that area.
At least that's what Bruce thinks.
Uh-oh. There's a teaser. Now you got to talk about it.
The area is pretty much Choctaw area. But I have a lot of surprises for you, Bruce. So let's just walk through it. Tell me where you left off. You had a great-grandfather named Jim Jordan. And what do you know about him?
James Jordan.
James Jordan.
We know that he worked in the mines. I did tracing and actually drove down there to Franklin, Arkansas to meet some of the Nichols family. There's no Jordans left down there that I know of, but the relatives don't remember him at all. What I know is just basically hand-me-down from what's left of the Jordan family in Pittsburgh County.
So let me just fill that part in right now. First of all, James Jordan does go by Jim and JJ, and he was in Arkansas. That is the home of his wife, Fannie Nichols, or Frances Nichols. And of course, I didn't research the Nichols much. I did have plenty of time to follow Jim or James, and I became quite intimate with him. His name is Jim to me at this point, but James Nichols.
Yeah, you guys are sounding like you're going way back. Do I need to worry about this?
James and I go way back.
How far back are we talking? 1800s?
Actually, early 1800s to 1700s. So we're going to keep talking about him. He was born around 1860s. And of course, Bruce had that information about his birth date. Where did you actually get stumped, Bruce?
I got stumped because one relative said that his father's name was, his mother's name was Sarah, and his name was Jack. And they were from Old Salazar. For some reason, Old Salazar was, I think it was because of the railroad. They picked up the town and moved the town 8 miles so that they can have the town alongside with the railroad. And they said that that's where he's from. I went to the Genealogical Society in Salazar, and it disbanded. They don't have anybody that's working with that anymore. So I couldn't find any other information. I hit a brick wall.
So I opened that brick wall for you quite a bit.
And how did you do that, huh?
I have magic powers, John. Magic powers.
Because that just sounded way too easy.
In my interview with Bruce, he was intrigued about census records. So let's start with the census records. And the guy is born in a lot of places and they're all over the map. As far as 1940, he says he's born in Maryland.
Who's he?
Before James Jordan.
Do you need to start addressing him Mr. Jordan?
Mr. Jordan.
Maybe that would be a little more appropriate.
Jim will be fine with me.
Way too familiar.
Mr. Jordan, James, we see him in Arkansas. We see him in the Indian Territory. At one point, he says that he's born in Maryland, whereas all the way through, he says he's born in the Indian Territory. Now, as I've always said, we don't know the informant on census records, so it may or may not be correct, except in 1940 when he says he's born in Maryland. So that was one of my clues, but I just put it on the back burner. Why did he say he was born in Maryland? And I can tell you now, Bruce, he was not. He was born in the Indian Territory, but Maryland was a clue. Because my question is, where did he come up with that? Why not somewhere else? One of the questions you asked me was what happened to the 1920 census records? Bruce had uncovered, John, all of the census records but the 1920s. So in the 1920 census in Oklahoma and across the nation, everyone was fighting because people wanted to redraw the maps, pretty much because the city was getting more representation in Congress than the farmers and the countryside. Oklahoma was part of this huge congressional battle. And so there are parts of Oklahoma in 1920 that they were not counted as they should have been and reported back to federal. Other places in Pittsburgh County, you'll see them. But in their enumeration district, which in 1930 was called 6132, that did not translate in 1920. And I just recently, as of today, got a third confirmation of that from the state of Oklahoma. So it's just a political thing, and it happens. There's other times I've seen in Kansas where they just refused to take a state census because they were mad at some politician. You did ask me another question about...
Hang on a second. I'm going back because I need to know why Maryland. I'm hanging on to that. You need to tell me, why did he claim Maryland?
That was not until 1940, not 1920. In 1940,
I still want to know.
When Jim was the informant,
yes,
he was given information about his ancestors,
right,
which had some ties to Maryland.
And so he said he was from Maryland?
He said he was from Maryland, but he was not. And he was 75 years old, and his health and his memory had failed him by then.
Might have had something to do with that.
Yes. So if you don't mind, stop jumping forward to 1940. I'm still on 1920.
You're still on 1920. Oh, okay. Well, what happened in 1921? Go ahead.
No, 1930.
I think we're up to August of 1921. Let's hear what happened.
We're going to ignore John on that, Bruce. In 1930...
I'll mute myself from here on out.
So in 1930, Bruce, you also asked me a question. Why does it say on his census record, Indian Cherokee mixed breed?
Yes.
And that is accurate. In the 1930s, in the column of number 19 and number 20, those two columns were reserved to put in your parents' birthplace. That was normal. However, in the instructions, that would be the federal instructions for the census takers, if someone gives the race of Indian in column 12, then they were supposed to designate which tribe and whether they were full breed or mixed breed. Now, I will send you the statute that explains that. And that's how we know that he is of Cherokee, Indian, and mixed breed. We still had to prove it. I know you mentioned you couldn't find anything on that. So I went to hunting. The 1940 census did give me the clue to think about why would he be Cherokee, mixed breed in 1930, but not in any of our typical roles. And what I figured out was a migratory path. But the migratory path that I realized he had was the Eastern Cherokees. So these are totally different roles than the regular dolls and the regular roles that you find for them. And then the next clue I had was you telling me Jack and Sarah. But I'm going to stop there because you also mentioned to me that there was an issue with obituaries or death, and you tied it to Gladys. Can you tell me what that was?
Okay, Gladys was involved with the burial. When he had passed away, Gladys was the person that gave him the information. When the headstone was made, Gladys was then again involved and had the headstone made. They do not match.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Gladys. Luckily for you, your family had a news reporter, and it was Gladys Patton. She put in all of the news of Harper Valley. It is through Gladys that I got a lot of information. One of the main things I got from Gladys that coincided with Jim Jordan's wife's obituary gave us the exact date when he died. So Francis Jordan says these are the dates. This is the 1941 date that he died, and it was accurate. I do have the funeral record for you. I was able to locate it at the Pittsburgh County Genealogical and Historical Society in McAllister. Has a wonderful volunteer there named David. He was able to provide us with a copy of the funeral home's record.
Thank you, David.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I must say that this is volunteer ran in general, but it's the local people who have the history, and they have a lot of the records. It was what's called the Cheney Collection, and he was able to send that to me. I will forward that to you. What we received from them also has the exact same date that Frances Nichols' daughter, Gladys, that she provided in the newspaper in the obituary of Frances. In that obituary, I immediately went to just look at tombstones, and I noticed there were two other Jordans who also died July of 1941. That was troubling. So then I went to the newspapers. The newspapers let me know that there was a J.J. Jordan who was very sick in 1941. He had surgery. He was at St. Mary's Hospital. When I received the funeral record, that is exactly where your James Jordan died. It was at St. Mary's. It actually added up very well. And, we have to take our hat off to Gladys for reporting every time someone was sick or visited, because it does also give a few more hints. And one of the hints is he was sick before 1941 because Orpheus, one of his sons, in the newspaper, it said visited the mother, but it did not mention the father even being around. So one of my last questions was, why was he not around?
I'm assuming this is all news to you?
This is all new.
Here it is.
He died somewhere in McAllister. No idea where.
Yes, at St. Mary's. The newspaper tells me that he was in two places, but only one of them was accurate. The accurate one, I want to say, is Wardsville. So I'm going to move forward.
Yes.
That is just up to Gladys and on page 2 of my 5-page note. So here we go. The person who actually reported the burial information on Find a Grave is a Thomas Henry Jordan. I asked you if you knew Thomas Henry and you said no. And that makes sense because the family was quite fractured. I put that one on hold because I did not know which Thomas Henry it was who actually reported the burial information. But remember I mentioned that this was from the Eastern Cherokee territory. Jack and Sarah were indeed recorded, and they are named on the funeral record as the parents of Jim Jordan, which means that's where everyone is getting that information from, or that's where someone got that information from.
This, I thought, was a really interesting case, and not for the reasons I thought at first, but it's got some great educational hooks too.
Well, yes, and poor Bruce. I would love to give Bruce some great information, but his entire work on this line is going to be eliminating people, which is exactly what we've done with one whole line. One court record proved that a couple was not the correct one. And that is always what we call our negative results. Bruce, we love them actually because it eliminates a larger field. So we're thinking as of today, I'm on the right track. And then you get a document that says that's not the right track. Well, disproving is just as important in genealogy. So, so I guess your approach, Kathleen, it sounds like it's better to find out before you're further down the road, it's time to turn around, than it is to, end up way down the road and just having to throw out hours and hours of research information, I guess. Well, yes. And we have A3 genealogy. So I normally, if I was not just doing the podcast, I would have a whole team working on different angles at the same time. In Bruce's case, his hints might lead him to other brick walls, and he just logs it, records it, and moves to another couple. I know, based on the funeral record I have, that the guy really did go by Jack and Sarah. What we didn't know beforehand was Jack Jackson, or was he John? Because these are wonderful nicknames for Jack from the beginning of time, pretty much. So seeing that, I'm thinking we've already ruled out one couple that looked promising with the right names in the right place. However, like I said, that court record proved them to be wrong. So I am going to give you some different sources and resources for you to look at. You're going to take each one, take your time, have fun with it, because there are a lot of Jordans out there.
Oh, boy.
So you're going into next steps
that is
for
correct.
Bruce. So this is what he's going to do next to start the redundant process of eliminating all of those Jordans.
That's correct.
Well,
Bruce,
all but one, I guess.
All but one couple left is what we're looking for. So I looked at your DNA, and your DNA is exciting, but I let it be my lead. It's like, where else can I look for Bruce? I really like the Eastern Cherokee. Matter of fact, that's almost your only option at this point, based on our previous research. The Eastern Band of the Cherokee Natives, those are the ones that you're looking at. But I didn't know something, and I have to ask you this question. At one point, you told me that you ruled out one Jack Jordan because of an age, but I don't remember what you told me. And while Bruce is pulling up that record, John, I just want to make clear why I'm doing this. His James Jordan, the son of a Jack and Sarah, that guy says he's from Arkansas, and then we see Georgia, and at one point we see Maryland or Massachusetts, one of the upper East Coast. And we do find other Jordans in the territory from Maryland, especially, and Massachusetts. But I'm looking really closer to where we know he was. We know he went to Arkansas as a minor.
That is because I think because he married Frances, his wife Frances, he went down to that territory, that area, Franklin County,
right,
in Ozark. I went down there and researched it, and I have on the Nichols side, I found maybe 100 graves of Nichols down there. So she is from that area and solidly from that area. So he traveled down there, I guess, to be with her family for a while. Okay, I found that Alabama.
Oh, it was Alabama you found?
Yes. The 1870 census of Alabama, there is a James on that census. The record is very close, but the child, James J. Jordan, is in fact James Joshua Jordan, and he died in Crawford, McLennan County, Texas in 1939.
And we did see him also. I should say that. I also saw him there in James Joshua. So I'm going to turn you to a different resource, and that's the National Archives, which has a lot more information about the Eastern Band Cherokees. You will want to use that with your other databases like Ancestry, or if that's what you use. But once again, I stumbled on a family I would say you might want to start with, because they actually have a Jack Jordan of the right age in Georgia and in Arkansas. And they report a Jack Jordan who disappeared in the Indian Territory, and he's about the right age. He's somewhere between 1832 and 1835 born. And all of these people applied for Native American application through the Eastern Cherokee under one man's name. And that man is John Wyatt, Wyatt. He was 100% Native American, and his daughter Anise actually did marry Nathaniel Jordan. Having said that, I did a preliminary search. Again, it's not proven. You'll need to go through, pull documents. Lots of the children applied under, a lot of John Wyatt's grandchildren with the last name Jordan applied, and they all named the same brothers and uncles and fathers. This Jack Jordan really intrigues me. But again, we have to pull all the records, which I did not have the time to do, but I'm going to give you links on the National Archives so that you will see all the other sets of records, because they're federal records, right? And they applied way before the original Indian Territory up in Oklahoma. They're through, like I said, the Georgia, Arkansas, but most of them did talk about this one Jack Jordan who went to the Indian Territory. I did not go in to decipher all of these records or applications, so there's lots of paragraphs of information. That's just a good place to start. And as you're working with the National Archive records, you might find some others that you like there also.
When you're looking at those records, are they transcribed records, or are you going in and looking at the actual physical copies?
The nice, wonderful handwriting, which it isn't, records, but they are all legible. I mean, the ones I saw were all legible. Now, the reason I did like them, Bruce, does not, again, mean much yet, because we don't have the documentation to support, was your DNA. Finally, your DNA was making a lot more sense. I think before I mentioned your DNA's not working out right. Well, these families have people like Duncans and Richardsons and Danger. You match with all of them at the right level, about a fourth to fifth cousin. Because if John Wyatt was 100%, just walking through something like that, his daughter would have been Anise Wyatt, who married Nathaniel Jordan, who had a Jack Jordan under him, born in around 1835, as I mentioned. There were lots of children at that point, and that would have been about a 25%, meaning that you yourself will only have about 1.56% Native American. Unfortunately, because of your lovely mother, Juanita, she would have had about 3.125% on this line. But as you know, you have 25% Native American because of her other lines.
Yes.
So when I look closer to her, I have to look at Claude. Yeah. You want to take someone, one of your cousins, who is a descendant of Claude, but you want that person not to be tied to Juanita, who had a lot of Native American on her other lines.
So it'd have to be Claude. All of those relatives are at Claude's level, are all passed away. Claude's brother, Jesse, his granddaughter is alive, and she does genealogy. And I have her DNA.
So she also is only going to have like 1.56, which takes me to the next point.
Oh, her dad is still alive, Preston.
Oh, well, we want Preston to take a test.
We have his DNA, but I don't have it all broken out.
Oh, this is good.
That's fine. So this is what I also need you to do. I know you all have been working with Ancestry. Do you have your DNA on any other test?
No, besides Ancestry?
That's correct.
No.
So I am going to send you a sheet of paper giving you directions of how to spread your Ancestry results for free to Family Tree DNA and to MyHeritage. This will give you a bigger and a broader sample to work with. You need more cousins. Now, all of your trees, everyone, even who started off with this John Wyatt and his daughter and niece, Wyatt Jordan, they start mixing all of the families. So the trees are not going to be that great if you're looking on your direct line. You're looking for someone who's related to the Wyatts, and you're trying to figure out how does John Wyatt or a niece Wyatt, his daughter who married the Jordan, how are they related? And who are the Richardsons, the Duncans, the Stewarts, and the Elrods? Now, the reason those names are important on this part is because in my cursory look at this particular family, those were the names of the females that the Jordan men married. This is when we want the women's side. So normally we go around screaming, the women are so hard, but they also can be our biggest key to finding the ancestors we're looking for. So you match with all of these women on Ancestry, but you need a bigger pool to prove it. So that's why I'm going to have you I want you to take your raw data from Ancestry and share it on other company site. And that larger pool are cousins. And there are going to be cousins you don't know, because who you're really looking for is a fourth cousin that's going to give you the biggest hint. And very few of us know our fourth cousins. Well, you don't have to know them personally. You just need to connect to them. And hopefully they don't have anything other than some great strong matches with the surnames you're looking for. I did write out the surnames of this particular family that I liked, that I saw first. And it was because I went after Jack. And like I said, I did look at Jackson's also, but I'm pretty sure it's Jack at this point. At least you have to have somewhere to start. So I'm saying, because the funeral director said Jack and Sarah, let's start with the Jack and Sarah who does show up in the Indian Territory. Go ahead. You have a question. I can tell. I hear your marbles working.
Oh, the marbles are fading. I've still got the energy to go through Ancestry and stuff like that. I have a daughter that's highly interested in this. Another daughter who's the twin who introduced you to us. She's interested, and I have, of course, this cousin who's the daughter of Preston. Preston is the son of Jesse, who's a brother of Claude. Mm-hmm. Preston is, we have his DNA.
So you do need his raw DNA, but you can get his raw DNA without you getting onto it. I'll send you the instructions on how she can download it and just email it to you. And you do want Preston's, because I'm hoping he only has a little bit of the Native American without your mother, who has a lot of Native American ancestry in general.
But I do tend to think that the more that's out there, the better off everybody is.
Right. We use DNA to support the paper trail. I also use it to give me leads. That's how I found this group. I went through and I'm like, okay, I need some fourth cousins related to this guy. And that's how I found this particular John Wyatt and his descendants. And then I went to the National Archives and I pulled out lots of their applications that they all do mention Jack Jordan. And as I said, most of them said, I think he went to Indian Territory. One says, we think he's dead. Last seen was Oklahoma. And then there's also another Jack Jordan that I really liked from 1874, his particular obituaries in the paper in Georgia. Now, the reason I kind of like the one I had that I've been talking about is because not only was he from Georgia, his wife was from Arkansas. So we see them both. And that's why I kind of gravitated toward that one instead of the other one. But I'm going to send you everything I have, because again, it's a process of elimination for you. I love to give you shortcuts, Bruce. There are no such things in this kind of research.
Sitting there going through Latter-day Saints microfiche has been the toughest.
Luckily for us, COVID came along. And they actually digitize almost 80 or 90% of their holdings. It's a large percentage. So we now can get those things from home. And if you haven't tried that, I'll send you that information also.
Yeah, I also had relatives alive during the years too that are now gone.
Yes,
Right.
That's your next steps there, Bruce.
Yeah. Has this been one of the tougher ones?
Absolutely.
Yes, definitely.
Absolutely.
And not all of these end up as dinner conversations, Bruce, but yours definitely did more than once. So,
Absolutely.
Bruce, this has been a whole lot of fun. I appreciate, you love this stuff as much as she does, I'm sure. But anybody who actually entertains my wife as well as you have for the last week or so gets high marks from me. She's thoroughly enjoyed the research.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Bruce.
You take care.
Enjoy it.
Thank you so much for your time.
Enjoy.
Bye-bye. Well, congratulations. You've made it to the end of another episode. Thanks so much for staying. Thanks to Bruce for sharing his questions with us. Thanks to Chewy Chewbacca Brandt, our part-time mailman repeller and full-time bringer of the boot, for his unwavering lack of interest in anything we're doing. The theme song for Hittin the Bricks was written and performed by Tony Fistknuckle and the Tardigrades. Watch for their next appearance on Cannery Row. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and of course Buzzsprout. We'd love to hear what you think about the podcast, so stop by our Facebook page at Hittin the Bricks and let us know.